Hi everyone, I am here tonight with the one and only Rabbi Shais Rishon, a.k.a. MaNishtana. Shais, it is an honor to have you here.
Hello. Thanks for
Hello.
having me. This should be fun.
What?
Thanks for having me. This should be fun.
Yeah, it should be tons and tons of fun. It is so good to see you. First question, literally, how are you?
I'm alive. That's a thing.
I was on Twitter a couple moons ago, not many moons ago, just a couple moons ago, and someone had this really like poignant tweet. It's like survival is resistance. So I guess it is. I guess
But
that's saying a lot.
what the world is variously on fire these days in different ways.
What?
So, the world is variously on fire in various different ways. So
Mm-hmm.
here we
Sure
are.
is. Well, this was pre-COVID. This tweet was like a couple of years ago. So now it's even more.
It's the olden times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, BC before Corona. Yeah. So I'm glad you're alive, Baruch Hashem. Uh, First question, I guess we can dive right into this gem of a book.
Oh,
Oh,
look at that.
look at that. Got your name all over it. I'm plugging it for you.
I love it.
Yeah, I actually bought a copy for my friend, and apparently she already had it. So I got two copies.
Look at that.
Look at that. So it's called Ariel Samson, Freelance Rabbi. Get yourself a copy, everyone.
You have
So
the
what?
pre-seal ones you have.
The
One of because the ones now have the little Jewish Book Council seal up in the corner now.
fancy. Very cool. So who is Ariel Samson?
He's a 20 something ish, Orthodox Black Jewish rabbi who just falls back assward through everything in his life and just tries to live and just be, and
Mm.
all the wacky hijinks that arise from that.
Hmm. Well, he sure is. Is he based on anyone in particular?
He actually is not. Like, it's a common misconception that he's sort of based on me because it is sort of a semi-autobiographical novel, but the sort of autobiographical parts are the scenarios he encounters, but his reaction to them and the outcomes, that's completely fictional. He's his own sort of separate character when it comes to that. So we don't have a ton in common when it comes to like personality wise or how we view the world or any of those kind of things. But
Hmm.
people send me emails thinking that I am the character. Like, I can't tell you the amount of emails I've gotten. Rabbi Samson's like, no,
Oh, that's funny.
that's it's not me. So
Mm. Well, can we talk about one of those encounters? Oh, I wanted to talk about one of the encounters in the book, but I don't want to spoil it.
oh, which one? If we could hint around.
The awkward dinner.
Oh, that's not a spoiler, I don't think. No. We can talk about that. The awkward Shabbat dinner?
The awkward Shabbat dinner.
Yeah, the awkward Shabbat dinner.
Yeah, that I felt the awkwardness as I was reading it. I was cringing as I was reading it. I was like, yeah, yikes.
I was cringing as I was writing it.
I'm sure you were.
And I was cringing when those questions happened at the actual various different Shabbat dinners. Those kinds of questions have happened at. I'm like,
Mhm.
ah. So, yeah.
That I imagine is based on an autobiographical incident experience.
It's a combination of a few different Shabbat dinners that I've been a guest at. Yes, I had very different answers to all of those questions, but my answers don't particularly lend themselves to like an extended ongoing narrative kind of
Mm,
in the scenario right there and like, okay, no, that's a terrible thing and you're a horrible person. Yeah.
right. Wow. Yeah. I think like in like right before that interview that not interview the incident happened, you outlined the different types of Black Jews, and I was rolling on the floor laughing. Can I give some examples?
Sure, sure. As I recall, actually, as I recall, it happens right like in the middle of the like. There's a
Right.
part
Yes,
happens.
I wasn't sure. I did go back and I wasn't sure because that is one of my, it's not my favorite. There's so many favorite parts of my book, but that is one of my favorite parts. Because I thought that was so brilliant. So for those of you who don't know, there are different types of Black Jews, and they are Menachem X / Asada Shakur. No, Asada Shoshana, sorry. Uncle Tevye, which is flippin' hilarious. Oh, Uncle Tevye, Bobby Jemima, Shylock Jenkins, Yidney Portier, Menorah, Macca Beat It Up, and Trouble Macher, to name a few. So my question right now, at this moment in time, which one are you?
I think I'm one of the latter ones. Uh, yeah, I think I'm one of the latter ones. I think that's like the troublemaker, and the one that comes like right after. I think.
Hmm. There
Uh,
was one who is he the one who wait, who's the one who manufactures fucks to not give them anymore?
yeah, I think that might be the troublemaker.
Mm. That is definitely you at all times, especially after I watched that video that you sent me, which I was, oh my god. So for those of you who don't know, Nick Cannon um was interviewed by the AC
AJC.
AJC, sorry, and it was very, forced, I guess you could say.
It was cringe. It's
It
a
was
little
cringe.
cringe.
And Rabbi MaNishtana, genius Rishon, had a brilliant reaction to it, which I will link in the description. You should all click it and check it out. It's really funny. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I'm the troublemaker. That's probably me.
that would be Troublemacher. That would be a result of Troublemacher, I would think.
Just a little bit.
Just a little. Well, that rabbi, I mean, let me tell you. I mean, now we're kind of, I think I'm a little bit, I have to organize my questions a little better. Um, Going back to the book, how did it come about?
It's a weird sort of cyclical story. Like there wouldn't be a MaNishtana without the book, and MaNishtana is why the book is the book. Because this entire, talking and speaking about racial and religious identity is not like the plan I had for my life. I just wanted to write about like dragons and elves and those kind of things.
I
And
actually know that, Shais. I know that very well. And I wish you could write a book about dragons one day.
I'm hoping to. I'm trying to maybe now. Um, but like when I was doing screenwriting, it was like, there's not a lot of, Black Jewish screenwriters, not a lot of Orthodox Jewish screenwriters. There's not a lot of Black Jewish Orthodox screenwriters. So like maybe I need to like, do my dues there, like write that screenplay first before I like go off to like Rivendell and like write about that. And I ended up with a 263 page screenplay. So if you've written screenplays, The sort of loose rule is 1 page equals 1 minute on screen. So 263 pages, it's like 4 hours and change. And I was like, nobody is going to sit here and watch this. This is too long. And at the time, this is 2009, there wasn't really a lot of dialogue around Jews of color, around just us in Jewish spaces and non-Jewish spaces. And so I started writing to sort of create that like dialogue and vocabulary so I could eventually come out with a screenplay and or movie. And so that led to speaking engagements, that led to like other things. And so 10 years 10 years later, there was finally the dialogue there for me to produce the story that I wanted to write in the first place. So if I'd never had the story, I would never had started speaking and writing. And once I did that, I was able to actually produce the story. So it's a weird cyclical sort of self-propagating cycle there.
Wow. That's awesome.
Crazy.
No, I mean, it's like amazing that it like it's so cool that it's like actualized. Like, you know what I mean? I love when dreams come true.
I didn't even realize it until it was in like the last round of drafts. And I was like, holy crap, I created the world that I needed for this thing to be a thing and people could read it and get it. And like, I didn't even realize until like the very last sort of leg of that. It's like, so.
I remember when you texted me.
What did
I do. You texted me that you finished it.
Oh yeah, that
Oh
was.
yeah, that I was like so overjoyed. Might be a minor understatement, but yeah, that was really exciting for me to get
You
that.
were overjoyed. It was living in my head for like 10 years, and like I was trying to make maybe a television series at one point, and then I went to make it a cartoon strip at some point, maybe, or a series of sort of like web episodes at a certain point, and sort of the Ariel Samson character like shifted a lot through that. Like the first draft, she was like a lot of an angrier sort of character, and it worked for the draft that I had then because it was mostly like sort of a visual thing. But once you're in a written medium and you have to get inside the character's head, angrier characters are harder to do that for. So then he had to become a way more passive character. Like if he lived in real life, I don't know if he could hang out because he kind of annoys me.
Oh,
Just so, going like taking the licks, and like Ellis is really like my character.
I was gonna ask you about Ellis because I know you have a thing for her.
Ellis, that's my secret person where I am in the book.
Mm. Well, I was gonna ask you, actually ask you how cool is she? How cool is she? Like
Ellis,
quanti number wise.
it's
How
it's incalculable how cool Ellis is.
she is pretty cool. I mean, she's like, and I say that in a cool way. To actually, her coolness is rubbing off on me, and that's making me come up with a cool response. Yeah, no, she's flipping awesome. And how did you like? Who is she based off someone in real life?
No, she isn't. I mean, she is another sort of. It's another one of those weird evolutionary kind of things. Um, because back in college, when I was still close enough to sort of remember high school, like to create an accurate sort of YA novel, I had sort of like that prototype Ellis character, but she was so well realized and so chaotic that I could never finish the story because she didn't want to do the things I needed her to do for the plot. And I was like, that makes sense as a
Mm.
character, but I can't finish the story if you don't do the things. And so it just sort of stayed unfinished. And so this Ellis character is sort of the grown up, more matured version of that sort of character that's more pliable because she needs to like live in the real world and like have a job and do things and is used to like, I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
but I need to do that for things to get done. So
Hmm.
that was really cool and another meta level to see like, oh, finally I can write you and you're not being as troublesome, but you're still being true to your character, and just that was really cool too.
Hmm. Well, if any actress in real life could play Ellis, do you have an idea who it would be?
I don't know if there is a single character. Like she's like I guess the closest single character would be like the Zoe Kravitz character in High Fidelity.
Mm-hmm.
That dryness. Like she's like if you took like Daria and Aubrey Plaza and mixed her with maybe Gabrielle Union and Bring It On, you might have something close to Ellis. But
Okay, Gabrielle Union and Bring It On is the coolest. OMG, that eyebrow raise, like who could forget that? That was like
so
beyond cool. She will, yeah.
you know that, but you keep like the deadpan of Aubrey Plaza and Daria and just mesh those together, and that would probably be the closest thing to Ellis.
Wow. That, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if that type of coolness even like exists in the real world. And we're talking about coolness, like I am like the least cool, the most uncool person, and I'm not saying that, you know, with like no confidence. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually I stray very much towards nerdiness, which I'm fine with. And
I'm sitting here with entire sack of dice. Okay.
okay, that's pretty nerdy-ish. Is that nerdy or geeky?
I guess geeky, right?
Perhaps. I know that actual geeks and nerds will analyze the bejesus out of the nerd geek distinction. I'm not that big of a nerd or nor geek. I'm just a plain old person who strays towards being a nerd.
I mean, the same thing works for Jews, right?
What?
The same thing works for Jews, right?
Uh,
To analyze, oh, who's really the from one, or really the shark one, or really the this, or
oh
really.
my gosh, I am like Bait Hillel all the way. I am so, I mean, yeah, I keep Shabbat, I keep kosher, but like if there is an inkling of a loophole, I will latch onto that and be like, I'm good. I did the mitzvah. I don't need like. How do you feel about that?
I don't think it's. I think it's a misconception when people say loopholes. I think it's not a terribly great appreciation or understanding of the specificity of the rules of Judaism, where what word gets used where means a different thing in a different context. Um, it's I wouldn't say they're loopholes or things that this is what it means and this is what it doesn't mean. It's not
Mm-hmm.
you're reading, like we sold our soul to Ursula and we're trying to find like a loophole in the contract to get out of it. Like it's not particularly like that.
Hmm. Well, yeah, that's true. I just I hate to compare myself to other people who call themselves Orthodox, but it's very clear that first of all, to most people, it's very clear that I'm a Baal Tshuva because of the types of questions that I ask and how I ask them. And at times it's embarrassing because it's like, oh man, I really don't know Jack
There was an
Shaita.
entire like industry out there to like exploit you guys. I remember getting ready for Pesach once, um, with my wife who's also a BT, and this is like one of her like first from Pesachs, and we were at I think Pomegranate or something in Brooklyn, and they were selling bottles of like salt water. You just get water, you put salt in it. You don't have to buy.
Right. But why would they sell Oh, that's, yeah. I mean, that's pretty exploitative. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
like,
to make people think that they need that. Like, yeah.
no, it's a thing you could do like almost practically completely for free. The water is free. You probably already have salt. Just salt, Water, pour some salt in, dip your egg or your potato, you're good. You don't need an entire.
Wow, that's funny. I
It's
wonder how much was it?
it was like more than water and salt should cost.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
And that
Oh man.
was shocking and baffling to us. Like, wow, it's
Oh
deeply
man.
brilliant.
Yeah, people don't buy water and salt. You could make your own.
Don't buy salted water.
Don't. Just don't. Anyway, on to important stuff.
All right.
All right, let's dive right in. Racism.
Oh, easy questions. Here we go.
In the Orthodox community.
Hmm.
Do tell.
It's horrible.
It's
Next question.
disgusting. I mean, what?
Next question.
I feel like it's a serious subject, and I mean, regarding like everything that's going on with Black Lives Matter, do you how do you see the response of the Orthodox leadership?
It's on this entire period of at least this past month or so has been terrible, particularly for Jews of color, where there's racist things are happening in Jewish spaces, anti-Semitic things are happening in Black spaces, and as someone in the middle, you're often sort of put in that space to have to explain your other. And I've been in enough Orthodox conversations where it's like, why aren't Black leaders speaking out about, anti-Semitism in Black communities? They are. Black Lives Matter is anti-Semitic. It isn't. Why isn't it, a conversation in Black communities, about Jews treatment? It is. And when I say this, you're like, oh, I haven't seen it. And I'm like, well, one, how many Black people do you actually know? One. Two, do you talk to them about internal Jewish issues like, agunot or child sexual abuse or drug problems in the Jewish community? So are you expecting to have like an ear to what African American communities are discussing internally? And three, I can say with confidence to Orthodox Jews that these conversations are happening in Black communities. I can't say it when people in Black communities ask me, where are Orthodox Jews on this or on Black Lives Matter or on that? I can't go back and say the same thing to them.
Mm.
And so that's a problem.
Mm. Wow. Do you have like I mean, I know you say the same things millions of times. How do you like I know that the same types of things have been said for years, and countless books have been written, and countless authors and writers and speakers, and it's like, do you see it change happening at all?
I would say yes and no.
Why
And
yes? Why no?
there's a weird duality that happens. Like, for example, the URJ, Uniform Reform Judaism, had their recent conference just before COVID, like at the end of 2019. And part of that conference, like a platform sort of piece, was the Forum movement supports reparations for African Americans in this country. Great step. At that same conference, Maragad, a colleague of mine, Black and Jewish,
Who is this?
Maragad,
Okay.
at that same conference, she was speaking. She came in to get sort of her name tag, and she was telling the real Maragad needs to come down to pick up their name tag. And she's like, I am the real Maragad. I was like, oh, really? What are you here to talk about? And over the course of the conference, people sort of approaching her and accosting her, like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? What do you possibly have to speak at? About it got so bad that she needed to be escorted by security
What?
to a conference for her safety. So on the one hand, you have, oh, we support reparations for like black people. Great. Black Jewish person, what are you doing here in our space?
Mm.
So that's, I would say, that's a prime example of things being better and worse, and just
That, yeah.
disconnect there.
Oh my gosh. So how, like, I mean, was she, like, like, was she okay? Did
No,
did
it
she write a
might
piece about it or something? Or like, what
be
ended
that
up
an
happening?
entire long piece on her Facebook profile that I've used in a couple of presentations that I've given for like Lemood UK, Lemood New York, um, when I was in Ottawa speaking there. To like, there's a weird binary that happens. Oh, we did this thing, so it means we can't have done that thing. Like, we did this good thing, reparations. Obviously, we're not this. Obviously, we don't have a race problem. Obviously, etc. Like,
Mm.
oh, we can do two things at the same time.
Mm.
What is that weirdness about, but they were a good person. Like, well, they were good people that owned slaves. Like,
Mm.
they're good people that do tons of terrible things. Being a good or bad person isn't a dichotomy, and having done a good thing or a bad thing doesn't firmly, permanently put you in that particular camp.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really an aggregation of things that you do and the impact of those things. And in this increasing world of polarization, where this means this and that means that, or if you're for X, it means you're inherently against Y. No, not necessarily. Like, these two
Mm-hmm.
aren't mutually exclusive.
Right.
So that would be sort of the better and the worse that is happening around this and of the dialogue. Um, it was about a year ago where I and a bunch of my colleagues were brought to a panel of a very well-known Jewish organization, which I will not name. And we were going to this panel, it's about six of us. And we're like, oh, they've got us here in the room, we're fairly like well-known movers and shakers. Like, are they here to like address policies internally, or how to develop or change their outward-facing work? So we're there at the panel, we're going to the introductions, and one of the members, because this is an internal meeting, keep in mind, so these are like board members, upper echelon, executive board type director of this department and that department people. And they're like, so tell us your stories. And so it goes on the line and it gets to me. And because, I'm snarky incarnate,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm kind of confused why you brought us all here, but you asked us for our stories. Person one was Lacey Schwartz, who
I don't know
has
who that is.
has been working for Bechol and with Bechol since forever. Wife
Mm-hmm.
of a congressman, had a film that went through all the major film circuits, right? You had Alad Neharai, Pop Chassid, founder of Hevia, worked for
Shout
Winston.
out. Hi, lad.
Exactly. Good story. Isaiah Rathsing,
Hi.
for Chazon, RCA graduate, Bechol Hashon also running the gamut. Lindsay Newman worked for Bechol Hashon since forever. Tamara Fish, Dr. Tamara Fish. Um, who else was on that panel? Megan Matterson, another activist in the field. Like, these are people who have had careers and have done things in multiple mediums that you could easily find out anything about us from a basic Google search of all the books, articles, films, speeches, and organizations we've worked for. But we're here in this room not to utilize any of that expertise, not to say, hey, you guys have done those things. It's, hey, tell us about you, because we didn't even apparently Google who any of these people are that we've collected and put into this room. That's like if you had the Justice League and you're like, so what do you guys do?
Hmm.
What?
How many people were in the room when you said this?
About 30.
Mm. Hmm. That's beautiful. It is. I mean, I know it's just like beautifully, you know, it's like God's sense of humor. But I think it's wonderful that you actually like what was the reaction?
It was silence for a while,
See, that silence is beautiful.
and there was a slight mutiny in between the higher ups that happened at a certain point where one of the directors of whatever departments was naming, it's like, yeah, this is kind of the culture that exists in here, which is why I was glad that all you were here in this room, because it's something that I've been struggling with and trying to fight and change. And the slow side eye that the director slash president of that particular organization gave to that person, who was sitting right next to him, by the way, was not only priceless, but was only topped by that person looking the CEO in the eye and turning right back to us and continuing saying what he was saying.
Wow. Hmm.
So better, worse, I don't know. What are we judging or gauging that
Um, that's a great question. Thanks for asking it.
on?
No, really.
Welcome to my podcast.
I mean, it really is a good question that not enough people, including myself, have asked enough times.
I feel like it's, you could ask that question in various different uh, subgroups, or are things better for women now or not? Like, oh, well, yes, we can vote, but we still get paid less than men. Or are things better or worse for minorities now? It's like, oh, we're not getting fire hose, but we're getting shot in the face by cops. Like, so it's yes, no, different evolution of obstacles and how they manifest and present.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I think things can be good and bad, like, period. Like, if you look at it from like a spiritual sense, you can be super grateful for like the things you have, but still be suffering.
I would think that would be the most accurate answer I would have then.
Hmm. Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, just a mini anecdote. I was telling my mom that I was like having, a really hard day and it was really crappy. And she's like, I thought you were just telling me that you're the happiest you've ever been. And I'm like, well, I am, but my
That's
life my life is hard. What?
the happiest I've ever been.
Yeah, it is a weird dichotomy. It is. And I think yeah, I do see that also for a lot of people. So,
Here we are. Here we are.
and here we are. Maybe one day we can get those nice things.
I think humanity just constantly proves why we can't have nice things.
Hmm. We gotta hope.
Yeah.
You gotta hope that you can one day at some point in time.
I,
So,
I,
yeah.
I think the difference, coming back to the book, between Ariel and Alice, where Ariel
He's
comes from,
more hopeful.
let's hope for the better things.
Hmm.
It's like things are always going to be terrible, and I'm surprised when things aren't.
Hmm. Oh, the best Ellis line in the book, and I will spoil it a little because it's very poignant, and it's what it taught me a lot. It's like when life gives you lemons, stop thinking that you need to make lemonade. You fucking swallow those lemons. And I'm like, yes, girl, yes, that's my girl. That's why she is who she is. You fucking suck it up. Excuse my language. Sorry, people, but you just take it. You take it. And I think that's like the difference between people who are yourself, like unicorns, like yourself, because you're able to just take shit, and the people who aren't.
I mean, I don't want to frame that in sort of a dichotomy of value judgment kind of way. It's perfectly fine if people can't, there should be an expectation of just because you have terrible things happen to you that you should be able or expected to be able to rise up above like a phoenix from the ash. Sometimes shit's hard, right? And it's okay to say this is too much or that I can't push through that. It's not anything that's expected of people to have to do. But there are people that can do that and people that can't. And any issue that is being faced, whether you're this oppressed group or that oppressed group or this a religion or gender or orientation, it's a conflict or a battle that's being fought on multiple fronts. So we need people with multiple talents and multiple ways of coping and dealing with it to actually solve the issue. There's no one size fits all box or right way to deal with things.
Mm-hmm. True. Very true. Which brings me to my next question about your previous book. Is that your previous book, The Thoughts of a Unicorn? Thoughts from a Unicorn?
First book, my
First book. I thought so. I read that book too, but it was a long time ago. You want to talk about that?
What do you want to know about that?
Honestly, I was going to ask you a bit of a heavy question.
Go for it.
It was about your friend who you found out who passed away.
The Joseph Robinson chapter.
Yes.
So there were a lot of things that went into that chapter, but I think the most moving or important thing for me was to have his story told. Because near the end, as I mentioned in the chapter, he was working on, sort of autobiography to, detail his life and his journey, what he believes and what he stood for. And so much of that after he died got tied up in legalese between the potential publishers and family, and then newspaper articles sort of throwing things out of whatever. And so, like, all those stories and drafts and would have been sitting, and I don't even know where, in limbo for like over a decade. And so that was, me doing like, I got you, man. Don't worry. Your story is going to be told. People are going to hear it.
Wow. I didn't even know. I read that and I didn't even know that was like the intention when you wrote about him. Wow. I just remember that you were in the subway.
Yes.
When you found out.
That was a night. I was in the Upper West when I found out. And hopped on the subway and came back, and that was a sight.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then about 8 years later, I got to be there when they renamed the street.
Like, yeah. Oh, I know that street. Wow. Well, Baruch Emet. Memory should be for a blessing. Yeah.
Getting all the easy, lighthearted questions. What else do we have next?
I know. What else do I have? You're challenging me, Shais. I love it. I love a good challenge.
We've known each other long enough for you to be expecting that. If you haven't yet, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, we go way back. Over 10 years. Well over 10 years.
It's 15 at this point, really.
Something like that. Yeah. Something like that. Brooklyn College, that's what I'm representing. This is one of my few Brooklyn College shirts that I have.
I don't have any, actually.
I mean, it's pretty big. It came in a big size. What can I say? Nike's not sponsoring it. I'm saying he's not sponsoring the video. Disclaimer.
Brought to you by.
Definitely not.
That's
Yeah. Thoughts from a unicorn. Thoughts of a unicorn?
Thoughts from a unicorn.
From a unicorn. That was a great, first, one of the first introductions that I had to your writings, and I've since been a very big fan.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
What?
why, thank you.
You're
Oh,
welcome. No, I'm actually a fan of you, and I've said this to you that the best part about being friends with you is that I actually feel like I'm still in the books when I'm reading. That is oh my God. And that's why when I talk to you, it's like, oh man, I'm still in the book. It's wonderful.
I love it.
Yeah. I think that when I read Thoughts from a Unicorn, there was something that made me laugh so hard. And I was in a quiet room and I was afraid that I was going to pass gas.
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah. That was, but I didn't. I kept it classy.
If you look at Amazon, a lot of the reviews are something very similar to that, where it's like, I was on a crowded train, or I was in a library.
Yeah. I was like, I think I was proctoring an exam, and I was like, yikes. This is freaking hilarious. And
So I just very recently re-edited and re-released it
mm,
a couple of months ago, and like sort of streamlined the thoughts I was trying to convey better, put back some of the bad language that I had self-censored out, just
mm.
put it back. Like, this is, now it's how I talk. This is, look at the evolution of who I am as a person right there on the page, and there it is. So.
It's really hard to not to censor yourself. It's really hard. Yeah, it's a big challenge. How do you, like, if you, when do you decide, like, what to say?
I'm still not sure. Just following my Twitter feed will wildly appraise you of that fact. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to, well, when it came to Thoughts from a Unicorn, like I wrote the draft, and then I decided to, because I hadn't figured out how to say the things I wanted to say with that same impact, and one, get to the widest audience I could, and two, not hear the excuse of, oh, I listened to you, but you said fuck, so now everything you said throws out the window and is no longer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sort of overcorrected in uh, some places and just ruined the beauty of the sentence structure. And then,
Without fuck.
yeah.
Mm.
So then I came back and was, oh, I just write it and just like put a huge black box over the word where you know what the word is. It isn't there on the page, so it's like still technically a PG-13, sort of book, but you're getting exactly like the rawness and the emotion and the passion of what I'm trying to say, specifically how I was trying to say it. And I thought it was really particularly important to do that after like I got smicha,
Mm.
because I wasn't ever intending to be living in this sort of clergy space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too often rabbinical figures are sort of over elevated and almost deified, where anything they say was always perfect. And
Mm-hmm.
if they said a wrong thing, it's us looking at it wrong through the lens of their time, and they didn't really mean it that way. And so I find it very important to say, no, the thing that I'm saying is exactly what I mean. This is how language that I'm using. Yes, maybe in 10, 15, 20, 30, whatever years, it's going to be something fucked up. That now. I don't know how things are going to change. What I have now, I know, but after a certain point, you don't need to know what's going to be. You don't need to know what's going to change. like 27 lines into literally the first Jewish book that exists is talking about all humans being created in God's image. And so that's all you really need to do anything or navigate through anything. You can't simultaneously hold that and say, oh, slavery is okay, or oh, being homophobic is okay, or oh, being whatever is okay. You might not have the specific thing that says in front of you, hey, don't be a jerk to people who are trans species, right? And it's crazy to us because we can't conceive of a world where, oh, you could be born human and be part elephant later? That's stupid, and you can go on a rant, right? But there's still that first verse, like everyone's created equally in God's image. So approaching things with this sort of myopia and this sort of idea of if it wasn't explicitly said, then that you're off the hook. That's a loophole. That's you trying to find. Because there's equally verses that are all around that may not say that specific thing, but will point you in the direction to not be crappy to other human people.
Wow.
That's what I got.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very esoteric. No, really. I think that you're explaining something simple in a very esoteric way, and it's like...
Oh, don't tell me that. That sounds horrible. Sounds like I'm a philosophy major. I hate those guys.
Well, you are a rabbi.
That bugs one of my best friends. You've met him. You've been to Shabbat with us. He's like the really tall black dude.
What's his name again?
Paul.
Oh, I do remember,
yes.
But I don't remember like specific. I have to hang out with him again at some point.
He's a huge logic philosophy major, and when we talk about anything else, I'm like, I don't get philosophy, man. I don't know what you're talking about. He brings like Kant's and all these things. Like, I don't get it. Then we talk about religion, and I explain these things, and he's like, how did you break that down completely in this philosophical way, perfectly, but you don't understand philosophy? It's like, what, I just philosophized just now?
I mean, that was 100% philosophy.
So.
Well, I mean, I think the frustration with philosophy majors is like, I'm going to be a philosophy major because I'm more ethical than everyone else, and I think deeply about things. I mean, that's totally how 18-year-olds come off who declare their philosophy major. And I get it. I was like that. My parents thought I was insane. I have since changed. And but they definitely come off pretentious.
I mean, it just
no offense to your friend. Much love. Shout out. Hi.
He's like a normal philosophy major. It's too ethereal or esoteric to me. And I think I explained it to him once, where it's, if I come off as having some kind of competency in philosophy when it comes to religious matters, it's because there's at least a concrete basis of something. There's like, this we know, this we don't know. Where I think philosophy is like, what is there even to know? It's like, how do you work with that? I can't work with that. Nothing is a thing to argue from because it may or may not.
Nothing is a thing. That's funny. Yeah. But it's interesting how like a lot of religion really is philosophy. And if you're a rabbi, then you are going to kind of do the dance of philosophy and religion and talk philosophy in philosophical terms.
I guess I'm just an idiot savant when it comes to philosophy and religion. Apparently I'm doing it competently enough, but...
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I wanted to say about the other thing about the language, the cursing. So I have a friend, Aaron Cohen, shout out. So he will say, he hosts meals, and he will literally say, attention motherfuckers, for Sabri Maranan. He's like, Sabri Maranan, attention motherfuckers. And he's like, what are you talking about? That's literally what it means. And that's literally the same emotion that it's intended to stir up. And people actually listen, and people are shocked.
Like a hear ye kind of.
What?
Like a hear ye, town bell kind of. You know,
Except it's intended to elicit a certain emotional response.
I can respect that. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I have a Shabbos mouth, but
Okay. Oh, his Shabbos meals are okay. He throws a fucking party. They're not just like Shabbos meals with like, you know.
you've been to our house before.
I have. I
You have
have.
actually
Oh,
laid out.
you wouldn't say attention, motherfuckers, to like what?
Because I give my mouth, my potty mouth, a rest for Shabbat.
Okay. You know what I think? The one thing I will. Well, there's a bunch I have to say, but I think times have changed, and now it does have a vulgar feel to it. You know,
Yeah, I could see that.
as emotive as it is, it's vulgar. It's like you're not you can't. I mean, you can, but it's like it's very like
It's
it
very
has.
like I can respect the thought process behind that choice. I just personally couldn't do it. Like, okay, I see what you're doing.
I hear you.
Yeah, you understand? Okay, I just
I wouldn't do it either. Just yeah, I wouldn't do it either. But right. I mean, we are classy as fuck. That's yeah, yeah.
love it, love it.
Good stuff, Chase. Good stuff. Yeah.
Year 3849 of our Lord COVID.
38, 40. Oh god. This has been a total hot mess, disaster situation. I mean, it really is. I mean, like I think that a lot of good has come out of it. I think for some people. Um, but yeah, overall, it's just insanity.
I understand how people just can't be patient and just making logically incoherent choices. Especially sorry in our Jewish community, particularly around yeshivas and shuls being open. Like, I remember the dialogue that was happening right after Pesach,
Hmm.
and people were talking about opening for Shavuot and things like that. Because I have a congregation up here in New City, or at least did before COVID. So let's see what happens when it's all said and done. But there were sort of emails going around with like the local shuls here. We're going to have a sign up sheet for like you know 10 people. We're not going to have anyone over like 60. We're not going to have any children, no women. Minyan, 10 guys sign up first, and we're good to open. I'm like, guys, let's think about this theologically, not even logically, just theologically for a second. When Moses goes to Pharaoh, right?
Hmm.
And he's like, we're going to go with our young and our old, with our sons and our daughters, and everyone we're going to go. That's when he
Hmm.
said who's going to leave Egypt and who's going to show up to Shavuot, actually, ironically. So when we're discussing the holiday that literally was the thing that Moses was talking to Pharaoh about, and
Hmm.
all those groups can't show up, then we're not ready to open.
Hmm.
This is specifically the holiday that was being referenced with our young and our old and our sons and our daughters and all of our people. And you're saying
Wow.
everybody can't show up? Then no, guys, be patient for a second and stay home.
Wow. That's interesting. I mean, there were a bunch of interesting parallel, like interesting biblical plagues that were happening in the world.
All right, there were some locusts that were happening.
There were some locusts. There were some frogs. There was a. Did you see that
Was it
red?
a river that turned red or something?
Yeah. And I remember your status back when I was on Facebook, and you're like, "What does God have for us in store?" Like, pretty funny, but kind of insane.
I guess is this a systems check just to make sure everything is working? Hurricane check,
Yeah.
tornado, earthquake, we're good. All right.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's like a universal system check. Yeah.
Now we have an asteroid on the way before like election day. It's
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
I heard about the aliens. It was on CNN, and my friends were making fun of me. Okay, so there were aliens. There was like something. I don't
The
know if there
Air
was
Force
actual aliens. What?
released footage of UFO.
Footage. Yes, that's what it was, and it was on CNN. And I was like, guys, there's gonna be an alien invasion, and they're like, Lily, you're a crazy ass bitch. Like, no, but I was serious. It was on CNN. CNN is not fake news.
Have you seen what's going on the planet? Do you think aliens are going to willingly come here to invade this? No.
No, no, but it was funny because
At all. They're going to avoid us like the plague. We're
they're
coming.
gonna think we're fucking crazy. My friend, my friend, he had this app that shows the stars, and I'm like, wow, that is so cool. And then he's like, well, if you pay, you could see the alien. It was really funny. Well, it's not. I mean, I don't know. We live in the year 2020 of our Lord COVID, so anything can happen.
Anything and everything is happening.
Yeah,
It's insane.
yeah.
No.
It is. It is insane. Well, it is 11:11. With that, I will give you the final thought of the night.
I wait with bated breath.
What's that supposed to mean?
I await your final thought.
Oh, my final thought. I just said I'd give you the final thought.
Oh, I have the final thought.
You get, yeah, your final thought.
Guys, don't be shitty to each other. Also, don't let Jews run Judaism for you. The end.
Round of applause. Round of applause. Shais, Rabbi Rishon, MaNishtana, this has been an honor and a pleasure. I hope I didn't make too much of an ass out of myself as an interviewer.
This is
And
fun. Also, I haven't seen you in since forever, so this is just a good catch up that we just have a hostage audience to watch.
yeah, I mean, it literally is what it is. I feel like I've been saying that more I've say that as much as you manufacturers fucks to not give.
That's
So
impossible.
hey, I'm just saying. And since you didn't do it, I'm gonna do it for you once again. Here it is, the book, the what's it called again? Magnum opus? Is that what it's called?
Yes, I would say that.
Magnum opus
Magnum opus.
of the one and only Rabbi Shais Rishon, Ariel Samson, Freelance Rabbi. Sorry, I had a total brain fart moment.
The 2018 finalists by Jewish Book Council Awards for debut fiction.
Awesome. Simply awesome. And thanks again.
Thanks for having me again.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Have an amazing night. Godspeed.